1 week after one of the most crushing losses in Sun Devils history, we have one of the most optimistic losses in Sun Devils history. We're going to talk about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks as always for tuning in. Wherever you get your podcasts, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. You can stay in touch with the content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. We appreciate you making us your first listen of the day, and of course, a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. These days, every potential new hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. What a massive swing for the Sun Devils. A week ago, I was talking about how this was one of the most crushing losses that the Sun Devils have had in recent memory. How all hope was seemingly gone. How I was wondering, and many others were wondering, if they were even going to win another game this year. Shut out at home versus Fresno State, 8 turnovers, 29-0. You sat there and you were like, man, I don't think it can get much worse than this. And then you had USC right around the corner too, and you're like, yeah, we're about to get dog-walked. We're about to suffer the wrath of arguably the best offense in football. This was supposed to be a 56 or 63-0 loss. And instead, the Sun Devils came out and they went blow for blow with the Trojans. They finished that game in a 42-28 loss. But yet, there was so much more good to take out of this game than any other game this year. That includes the win over Southern Utah in week 1. This was the game that instilled hope in you that maybe the season is not lost. We're going to talk about the reasons why it told us this. We're going to talk about some of the bad things that happened as well, and then we'll wrap it up with some takeaways. But there was a lot of good to take away from this game, and nothing was more positive out of this game than the play calling. Kenny Dillingham took over play calling duties this week, and you could instantly see a massive, massive difference in what was going on with this team. You saw so much variety in the play calling. They were running the ball. They were passing the ball. They were attacking deep. They were playing to the sticks. They were running outside, inside, trick plays galore, man. You had Cameron Skattebo throw the ball 3 times for 42 yards. You had Drew Pine catch an 11-yard pass. You had Elijah Badger catch a fake punt from Cameron Skattebo. You were doing everything in this game. It was so unpredictable that even sitting up in the booth, we're sitting there like, what's next? What is next for Kenny Dillingham? Because it gets to a point where even the opposing defense, like, how do you game plan? How do you make adjustments for an offense that is so unpredictable? There's so many different ways that the Sun Devils can find to beat you. Their running back was doing pooch punts. I mean, it doesn't get any crazier than that. And speaking of the running back, like, Cameron Skattebo went absolutely bananas in this game. The people's running back is what I will call him. And I hope that catches on because, man, he just is so good at football and does a great job representing Arizona State University. Like I said, 2 of 3 passing for 42 yards. He also ran the ball 20 times for 111 yards. Pretty good. 4 catches for 79 yards and another touchdown. Also pretty good. So you're telling me he had 190 scrimmage yards with an additional 42 yards through the air, plus a 53-yard punt that got down inside the 20-yard line. For most teams, that's a Heisman contender. Is he? No. Not unless he does that for the final 8 games of the year. And even then, ASU would have to run the table, basically, for Skattebo to be a Heisman guy. But that's the kind of performance that puts you on the map. He was unbelievable to literally do everything for you. Throwing, running, catching, special teams. It doesn't get much better than that. Travis Hunter better watch his back because Cameron Skattebo might be the most versatile player in the Pac-12. Maybe, obviously there's a little bit of bias there, but, have some fun with it. There was a lot to have fun with in this game. The play calling was great. Cameron Skattebo was great. The turnovers also really decreased. You went from 8 turnovers last week to, I think there were 3 turnovers in this game. There might have just been 2. I know that Drew Pine went from throwing 4 interceptions last week to 2 interceptions this week. No, he had 4 turnovers. That's what it was. He went from 4 turnovers to 2 turnovers for the team. Have to love having that kind of consistency and knowing that you weren't. No, he had 2 turnovers. That's what it was. He lost a fumble and he threw 1 pick. That's what it was. Final answer. Still, going from 4 turnovers in 5 drives last week to 2 turnovers over the course of 60 minutes. That is so much better. The Sun Devils entirely just took way better care of the football. They were making secure catches. They were holding on to it. They weren't making bad decisions in the open field. Like the interception that Pine threw, yeah, it was bad. Kalen Bullock read that thing like a book and was able to just get exactly where the ball was going. Totally. Like bad throw. But it is what it is, man. Every quarterback's going to make bad throws. Caleb Williams is going to make bad throws. The Sun Devils as a whole really just took much better care of the football, and there were so many positives to take out of the game offensively. Defensively, they weren't bad. They did a really good effort, I would say. In a game where Caleb Williams scored 5 touchdowns on you and threw for over 300 yards, they did a quality job. It could have been a lot worse, but the Sun Devils were able to find a way to dig deep and get some stuff done. They sacked him 2 times. They had some good pass breakups. They were making plays in the backfield. They did a really good job limiting some of their weapons, too. One of the guys going into the game that I had highlighted was Taj Washington. Zachariah Branch. Sorry. Zachariah Branch was one of the guys I talked about. He had fumbled the ball on a punt and was lucky to fall on it. But as a whole, they did a pretty good job minimizing him and some of the other weapons that they had. They did a quality job. Was it perfect? No, far from it. But you have to be happy with what you were able to see in this game. As a whole, the Sun Devils really just showed up, and that's the biggest positive to take away from here. Kenny Dillingham doesn't believe in moral victories, but what he did say is that we're getting better, and that was completely evident on Saturday night. These days, every potential new hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. As a small business owner, you need to have that kind of availability to be able to build yourself up. You can do it in minutes. And once you do that, add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And again, as a small business owner, you know that having that right team member can have a positive and measurable impact on your business. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe. And obviously, as big college football fans, you guys got to make sure that you're tuned in every Friday to the Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. They go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insights and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, on every Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. It's the best coverage that you guys can possibly get. We're going to go ahead and hop right back into our conversation, flip the script, and talk about some of the negatives here for the Sun Devils. And look, this wasn't like a throw it all out game. There was positives here, but there were still some negatives that we have to talk about. And the biggest negative here is the big plays. There was a lot of holy cow plays. And to a certain extent, like, it's Caleb Williams. It's going to happen. But Kenny Dillingham also noted in his press conference, he said, we can't use that excuse. We can't just say, oh, it's Caleb Williams. No, we need to do a better job defensively to limit those kind of plays. And there was a handful of them. First of all, they were running the ball down Arizona State's throat. I mean, they were just inflicting their will. 20 carries for 322 yards. Or excuse me, that was passing. Still, we'll talk about the passing in just a second. 29 carries for 213 yards. Like, mind-blowing what they were able to do. Marshawn Lloyd, their running back, carried the ball just 14 times and turned it into 154 yards. So he was rushing for 11 yards per carry, right on the dot, 11 yards per carry. Luckily, he didn't get into the end zone. But Caleb Williams found the end zone twice on the ground, 3 times through the air. Now we'll talk about the passing game. They went 20 of 31 for 322 yards and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, 322 yards on 31 attempts. So that's over 10 yards per attempt, you guys. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They were giving up plays on 4th down. I think they only went for it twice on 4th down. But yeah, they only went for it twice. But Caleb Williams went deep for, I think it was Brandon Rice. It might have been Taj Washington's only catch. Whoever it was Brandon Rice. Final answer. It was Brandon Rice. Yeah. He was just able to create separation at the top of the route. The Sun Devils pass rush, I thought it played fine. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't great. They did a decent job. But at the end of the day, Caleb Williams is just able to make plays happen by itself. But regardless of the fact that it's Caleb Williams, you still need to find a way to be able to limit those big plays, because we've seen a handful of big plays from opposing offenses this year. Like, the Sun Devils are susceptible to that kind of stuff. And to a certain extent, that's okay, because for the most part, they're playing very good football. You can't be too angry with the play that they're delivering you. But there's still room for improvement. And the USC game was entirely evident of that, because USC was just big play after big play in this game. Chunk yards on the ground, big plays through the air. They were just getting it done. So the Sun Devils got to find a way to be able to minimize those kind of problems. If they are able to do that, I mean, you're talking about one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 here. You're going to get to a point where you're nearing that elite status. They're doing a really good job. That pass rush is figuring it out. They still don't have very many turnovers. They did get their first turnover of the season, but it was a miscommunication on an RPO. Like, Caleb Williams went to hand the ball off. Running back didn't know he was getting the ball. Ball's on the ground. Tate Romney falls on it. That's awesome that you got the turnover, but you're still looking for consistency in that turnover department. Outside of that, you don't have any. That's got to be able to improve. You got to be able to start creating those opportunities for yourself to get yourself in these games, because if Arizona State is able to get an interception or whatever, you're potentially talking about another 7 points on the board in a game where the Sun Devils only lost by 2 possessions. They were in this game. They could have perhaps really been in it if they were able to generate some turnovers. And for the 100th time, it's Caleb Williams. I get it. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He's not perfect, though. There were some opportunities for the Sun Devils to capitalize, and they weren't able to. It is what it is. Can't sit here and dwell on it forever and ever and ever. The secondary is the other thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like they've been probably the strong point of this defense for the first 3 weeks of the year. They got exposed. And I understand, I really do, because I'm just saying it over and over and over again. Caleb Williams creates unscripted plays. He's able to get those throws off that aren't on schedule and make the big plays happen. Sun Devil secondary still needs to be able to be a little more sticky. Like, Ro Torrance has been up and down this year. He's definitely not been the high caliber player we thought he was going to be. He's still good. He's just not the elite guy. Maybe that's on us for hyping him up as much as we did and needing to understand that he's still a guy that's learning. Jordan Clark plays well. D Ford, solid. He definitely got burnt a couple of times. Safety play definitely needs to improve on the deep end. Like, there's a lot of good here with the secondary, but there's also a lot of room for improvement. You ran into arguably the best defense in football, or offense in football, excuse me. You ran into the best quarterback, maybe the best player in football. You ran into a team that has basically 6 number 1 receivers. It's going to happen. But I'd still be remiss if we didn't bring it up. When we talk about the good and the bad, the secondary was part of the bad. I don't expect this to continue to be a problem, but you also have to understand you got a lot of really good passing teams coming up. Washington State, Arizona, Washington, Oregon are still on your schedule. Colorado is still on your schedule. There's a lot of really good passing teams that are left here. And you got to be able to find a way to improve there, because if you can't get that figured out, you're going to have some really rough days against teams that are just going to air it out with no issue. Just got to find a way to clean it up. This is a really good week to have a good tape session to figure out what went right and what went wrong. Clean it up, wash your hands, and move forward. That's the way you're going to improve here. With Athletic Brewing, you guys, they provide us your game changer of the week. And of course, this week's game changer was Cameron Skattebo. Much like Skattebo, Athletic Brewing is completely changing the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Cameron Skattebo changes the way that a game is played. He can run it, he can catch it, he can pass it, he can punt it. The way he does everything is what makes this Sun Devils team go. And Athletic Brewing Company, very similarly, is changing the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beer that actually tastes good, full of flavor and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety too, and they're fit for all times, so you can drink anytime, anywhere. Make it more comfortable and enjoyable, whether you're watching the big game, tackling work or workout, or anything else. Of course, since it is a non-alcoholic drink, you don't get a hangover ever. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first order online. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, one more time, wherever you're getting your podcast, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post our new content. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with some takeaways here. First and foremost, defense isn't perfect. Is what it is. This is still a really good unit. This is a unit that has really stepped up this year. They're doing a lot better job getting after the quarterback. We're still waiting for the turnovers to start coming, but they will. They will come. You got talented players that are going to be able to do that for you. Give them time. But pass rush is doing well. For the most part, they're doing a really good job with tackling. There's missed tackles, of course, but you have guys that are really confident in doing that with Chris Edmonds, Tate Romney. These are guys that you can build your defense around. They're doing a good job. Have to be happy with the way they're playing, but it's not perfect, and they're going to have rough games. That's one of the biggest takeaways here. Second takeaway, this offense has that high potential that we were hoping it possibly could be. Even beyond Cameron Skattebo. You had Elijah Badger, 9 catches, 88 yards, a touchdown. You had Jalen Conyers that showed up, 5 catches for 71 yards. He was making big plays. They were not able to get Guillory involved. 5 targets, didn't pull any of them in. I don't really blame him for that. There were overthrows deep and whatnot. You still have him. Skattebo's great. Conyers great. Badger's great. You got the weapons. This is a high upside offense, but you got to be able to clean up the offensive line too. 8 sacks given up. Whether you want to blame the offensive line or Drew Pine, it's up to you. I think it's a little bit of both. Got to find a way to be able to clean that up. If you can get that cleaned up, you're talking about an offense that can put up a lot of points per game. They showed that they could go step for step with USC. Doesn't get better than that. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Last takeaway, Kenny Dillingham is him. Kenny Dillingham is Himothy. He is that guy, pal. Trust me, he's that guy. This was such a vastly different team. Completely unidentifiable from what we have seen the first 3 weeks, man. Like, mind-blowing what we got to see from the Sun Devils in this game against USC. You have to wonder when Drew Pine is 100% healthy, or if Trenton Bourguet is back, whatever it is, the offensive line gets cleaned up and healthy. You have to wonder what the ceiling is here. What happens when Jaden Rashada is 100% healthy and gets a year into this playbook next year? What happens if some of these guys come back? Badger and Conyers and Skattebo and Guillory still have eligibility to return for next year. There are so many things to build on. So many different things that should get you excited as a fan. So many things that should get you to the stadium, to activate the Valley, the way that Kenny Dillingham said that they did. Kenny Dillingham said in his post-game conference, this was activating the Valley. It was loud. It was sold out. Everybody was bought in. We continue to do that, you're going to get the result that you want to see. That's what Dillingham said. So keep doing what we're doing, guys. They are doing everything they can on the football field, and they just proved that they can put together a very, very good football program. I'm beyond excited. For a loss that drops you to 1-3, I can't think of a better situation to be in following a loss than what ASU has found itself in. There's a lot to build off of here. Hopefully they continue to do this moving forward. They play Cal this weekend. We're going to be covering that game coming up, but we got plenty to talk about in the meantime. So wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe. Turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content Monday through Friday. Stay in touch with the content by following me on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. I appreciate you guys as always. I will see you guys tomorrow. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.